Members of the town board, Jennifer Castellano, Jane Crimmins, Tony Consalves, and Dan Welsh. We have a quorum and can vote on any matters that come before the board. Also present are Town Attorney Anthony Millay, Town Clerk Janet Donahue, and Joel Smith, Facilities Maintenance Director. At the public comment periods, we ask that only the following persons be permitted to speak: residents of the town of Lewisboro or Katona-Lewisboro School District, owners of property in the town of Lewisboro, employees of the town of Lewisboro. If you want to speak at the public hearing or make a public comment, please raise your hand at the appropriate time. To do that, if you are on Zoom, put your cursor at the bottom of the window and you should see an image of people labeled participants. Click on that to get a panel on the right-hand side with icons at the bottom. You can then raise hand. Participants who have raised their hand will show up on the host screen in the order that they raised their hands. The host will then unmute you and tell you that you have the floor. You may also have to unmute yourself if your microphone isn't active. We are also asking that your video be off during the duration of the meeting and only turned on when invited to speak. If you dialed in on a phone, you can raise your hand to indicate you want to talk by pressing *9. We'll ask people to give their name and which hamlet they live in upon entry, and to keep their comments to 2 minutes. Our town clerk will be keeping time, and you will hear a timer at the end of the 2 minutes. If someone is disrespectful or uses profanity at this meeting, they will be asked to leave the virtual meeting, just as they would be asked to leave a physical meeting. Please remember that your camera is on and profanity will not be tolerated in any form, including gestures and acronyms. Now, would you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would now like to invite public comment on any subject except the various budgets, the 3 budgets being discussed this evening. Comments on the budgets will be at the end of the meeting. Does anybody wish to speak?
Peter, I have one hand up. It's no name but TC3. I'm asking TC3 to unmute and start video if they desire.
Hello.
Hey there.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for allowing us to have this chance to talk. My name is Tim Cronin, and I live in the hamlet of South Salem. I watched the Zoom town board meeting from September 14th and took interest in the Sustainable Westchester program and the town of Lewisboro signing residents up for that program. And I looked further at what my bills were from NYSEG on the supply charge for the last year. And based on this, and also I want to point out that I did have some email correspondence both with Peter and Dan, and they both responded, and I do appreciate that. In looking at my NYSEG bill for the past year, my average kilowatt hour charge is 5.1 cents per kilowatt hour. And the program that the town is signing its residents up for is going to charge anywhere from 6.7 to 7.1 cents per kilowatt hour, an increase of anywhere from 31% to 40% above and beyond what we're paying now. Now, just this evening, I saw an email that came back from Dan, and he mentioned that there were other charges that maybe I wasn't including. However, what I did do is I looked at my NYSEG bill here, and the charges that Dan referenced don't exist on my bill. And I don't know if they're hidden somewhere, but it seems to me that in Peter, especially for you, in your statement where you're telling residents that they're going to be saving anywhere from, I guess, 10% on their electric bill, I think you really ought to take a close look at that.
Can I just break in, Tim? Those are two separate.
As long as it doesn't separize my 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying those are two separate programs. The power supply program is Westchester Power. The 10% savings thing, that's the community solar subscription. So if you sign up for that, you're going to guarantee 10% savings on your entire bill, including the delivery. So those are two separate things.
So the one that's not the 10% is going to be a 10 or 20 or 30% increase then. Is that correct?
So it's been the price difference. So though, we can look at the details, whether or not you've got the zero emissions credit and all those other ones, but still there was a definite gap between where our fixed price was and NYSEG over the past year. Absolutely. Where it would be starting with the new contract, which starts in December, and for that next half a year, no one can say, because that's a matter of projecting the utility, where the utility is going. And we've had presentations on this before and said, yes, we got slammed because the gas prices just collapsed right after we signed this last contract. So there's been a significant gap, for us to be buying into green energy. And certainly, and we've always emphasized, if that's at a place where people are uncomfortable and they don't think it's where they want to be, we want them to be able to opt out and do that easily. And they can do that by calling the Sustainable Westchester office or going online, sustainablewestchester.org, emailing me, whatever. There's lots of ways to do it. So just to clarify those points, we don't know where the price is going to be in the future.
And I appreciate that. But if I go back and I look, my December 2019 was 5.3 cents, which is still significantly less.
Yeah.
And all things being
Got it.
and holding.
Excuse me, but this is not the time for a debate. It is a time for you to make a comment.
And my comment is that I believe, based on the information that's been presented by the town, is that the average bill for a Lewisboro residents will go up $30 per month. And I think that one way you can demonstrate that that's incorrect, and I could be incorrect, take your bill, take Dan's bill, and whoever else, cross out the number that goes away, put in the number that's in.
Again, we are not debating. You are making a comment, and I think your comment has been made. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Next person.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Thank
you. Next person, I'm asking to unmute is John Brescia. I'm asking you to unmute, and if you want to turn on your video.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Breda, and I'm a resident of South Salem. The reason I got on this meeting today, I've been in communication with Mr. Goncalves. It's regarding the poor service that the community is receiving from Optimum, whose parent company is now Altice. I don't know if this has been brought up before and how much has been done about it, but in communication with other neighbors on the Nextdoor app, it seems like this is a ongoing issue with many residents of the community. And I'm speaking around the Lake Truesdale area. I know that there's some other places where there's some competition where you may be able to get FiOS in, but I work from home, and I found that since Altice took over this company, we have been unable to get issues resolved in a timely manner. And, I went literally a week and a half with my internet dropping out while I'm trying to hold conference calls and Zoom meetings and everything else from my home. And, you would call up, try and get a supervisor because you weren't getting anywhere. They would not connect you to a supervisor. And, you would just get disconnected after you've been put on hold. So the whole situation is frustrating. I guess my comment is that it would be nice if we, as a community, could do something about that. But most importantly, I would like to see us get some competition in here, namely FiOS or any other company that we might be able to get in. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Next, I have two more, Peter.
Okay.
Next, I'm asking Jimbo to unmute and to share video if you'd like.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I have a response in regards to Mr. Walsh as Program Director for Sustainable Westchester. I brought this up a couple of weeks ago in regards to Form 990. He's listed as a Program Director. He has billable hours of 40 hours. That's for the year for 2018. He made $100,000. Expenses totaling $14,000. So roughly $115,000 he made for the year of 2018, billable hours. And yet he has not updated the website for this 2019. I'm just curious, as his position as a town board member, is he somehow gaining the system? Is it a quid pro quo? And also, as the town, are we held responsible? Is that something ethical wrong about? Is there something ethically wrong about it? So I would like for the town to look into it. And I also like anybody else who's listening to this to go to that website and just go over that Form 990. In regards to Mr. Parsons, the way you speak to taxpayers is horrible. You should apologize to Mr. Cronin. I really, truly think that old saying, I will not take a knee and winter is coming, it's coming for all of us. So I suggest that you review the Form 990 and let's update that website for 2019 so I can find out, have you made more money on this town? And again, your white privilege is showing through. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimbo. Good to hear from you.
All right, thank you, Jim. And here's that's it for now.
All right. I'd like to move on to communications. First, it's been a long time since there's been a shredder truck in town, but it will be at the Lewisboro Town Park on Route 35 in South Salem on Friday, October the 9th, 2020, from 9 a.m. until 12 a.m. Again, Friday, October the 9th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. This will be for the town departments along with town residents. Please remove all metal clips, fasteners, binders, folders, and hard covers, and place the papers loosely in a box. Hard covers, cardboard, and plastic covers on items such as ledger books, marble composition books, and hardcover books cannot be shredded and will be turned away. Residents must rip pages out from hardcover books for shredding and throw the covers in their regular household recycling. Up to 4 large cubic foot boxes of paper are allowed for shredding. If you have any questions, please call the town clerk, 763-3511. COVID-19, there has been something of a resurgence of this virus. In the county, we have gone from 44 to 131 cases in the last week, and which is a 200% increase. In the northeast of the county, however, which is Lewisboro, North Salem, Bedford, Pound Ridge, and Somers, we are down to 39 from 41 during the same period. And in Lewisboro, we're down from 6 to 5. So the news is not all bad, but we need to continue to be careful and to wear masks and to really hold ourselves in check, because it's clear that there is a resurgence around us. Next, I'd like our census percentage has gone up to 78.6%, which is another way of saying we're 21.4% short. Now, some of that is very reasonable. It's houses that, it's second homes. It's houses where people have only just moved in. But still, everybody who in fact completes the census form increases our share of sales taxes and therefore reduces their taxes, ensures that we are closer to at least maintaining and hopefully even increasing our representation in Congress and in the Electoral College. I'd like to propose that we approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the last 2 meetings. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to propose a resolution adopting the retention and disposition schedule for the New York local government records. This is a regular thing, and I'd like a second on that.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
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 I'd like to move on to reviewing the library budget. Is the library present?
I'll ask Cindy Rubino to, Cindy, if you could raise your hand. Please. I'm asking you to unmute Cindy and to show your video. There you are, Cindy.
Hello, everyone. Hi, how are you
Hello.
this evening? Thank you for letting me to come talk about the library budget and our request from the town. For those who don't know me, I'm Cindy Rubino, the director of the Lewisboro Library. The library is an association library, which is a nonprofit 501c3 organization, which is chartered by New York State to serve the town of Lewisboro. Every year we negotiate with the town for the amount of funding we receive to serve the community and sign a contract to do so. In 2019, the town provided 70.7% of our operating budget income. The state provided a big 0.5%. The library fundraised approximately 26.3, and we were forced to take 2.5% or $14,008.39 from our reserves to meet the operating expenses. And as I like to remind the town, if I would be permitted to share a document, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. The host still has disabled participant screen sharing. I don't know if Joel can.
I can do that,
Okay, thank you,
I
Janet.
think.
If you,
So I
you
think
know,
I did.
yeah, okay, all right, let me try now. Oh yeah, that's better. Hang on a minute. Oh, no, still disabled. It was up for a minute and then,
Yep, I hit share screen.
okay, let me do it again. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
As I like to remind the town every year, This is a chart from the Westchester Library System of the local public support appropriated per capita. And if you look at the rank order listing, if you go all the way down to the 38th, there are 38 libraries in Westchester County. Lewisboro has the lowest per capita public support of any library in Westchester County and has been down at that level for many years, unfortunately. So last year we received, you people are all in the way, I can't read it. There are $32.72 a year. So let me stop sharing that. The library has been creating unbalanced budgets for the past few years. We do our best to increase our fundraising as much as we can, and we hope on a wing and a prayer that our library fair, our direct mail appeal, and the generosity of our community members will make up that operating budget by the end of the year. Unfortunately, one of the pressures on the library these past few years has been the minimum wage increase. Many of our hourly workers are only making within $1 or $2 of the minimum wage. So we are forced to give them at least $1 an hour increase for that purpose alone. And I'm going to share our budget now. I know the town board members have received this budget, and here it is. Here we go. So this is our draft budget for 2021. And you can see we're not very optimistic about our income. Fines and lost book fees are down a great deal. And I'm very doubtful that we will even receive $7,000 next year. We're not confident in increasing the fundraising. We're doing the best that we can. And of course, with the library fair, we put it in. We don't know what's going to happen with that. I'm trying to, here we go. All right. So this is one of our main problems here with salaries. In order to raise our hourly workers the $1 per hour for the hours they work during the year, it's going to cost us $5,000. I guess it is 1.35. I thought it was 1.23. Okay, well, we'll fix that. So this is what I'm really asking the town to fund for us. What it means is the 1.23 actually comes from the town of Lewisboro. I don't have the 1% increase up here, but I'm asking for $5,400, which would be a 1.23 increase in the town's funding. And I just want to give you a peek. If we go through with the budget as we've created it, we're going to be in the red by $77,364 at the end of 2021. We hope that that won't happen. We usually can make up the amount. In 2019, we ended in the red by 14,000. So that's where we stand. And I think I know that our board president, Nancy Eichner, would also like to say a couple words, but before we bring her in, does the town board have any questions for me?
I was just wondering if you'd want to recount to us very quickly. In some years back, you explored the idea of creating a library district and separating the budgets.
Yeah.
And where did we get on that? And
It was voted down.
Well, it's clearly voted down because here we are.
Actually, Dan, let me just correct you on one point. We did not go all the way in asking to create a district. We used a provision in the New York state law that asked us to have the town just vote on our budget, not create the special district. We didn't go that far. And unfortunately, it was more than 10 years ago, and we were turned down. Unfortunately, it was also the first year of the scannable ballots at the voting booth, and our referendum was on the back of the ballot.
Oh.
So many people didn't even see it or vote on it. And then in addition to that, some of the pens that were provided bled through the paper. So if you voted for the governor, it bled through to the other side. If you voted for the referendum, it kind of bled through to the governor. So that invalidated some of the ballots. I'm not sure whether people re-voted or not. So it was kind of a mess that year. It's difficult for us also because our town is so spread out, from Golden's Bridge to Vista, and the people that live on the western side, do use, even though there are library card holders, they do sometimes use Katona or Somers because it's closer to their home. So it's a very tough, it's a tough thing to do. Also, in this environment as well, Governor Cuomo, as you may know, is not in favor of creating separate tax districts. It is still legal if we were to go through that process, which we would also have to pay to accomplish probably in order to communicate with everybody about what it's about. But, the governor himself, not the law, has been very reluctant to create other tax districts. And there was at least one public library that went through the whole process, and their residents approved it, and their legislators created the small piece of legislation that would allow them to do it. And then the governor did not sign that for a year. So it's not the best time to try that tact.
Cindy, either you or Nancy, when she gets on, can you refresh the board's memory and for people who are watching at home, some of the services that you were able to provide during this COVID-19 shutdown?
Yes, I would be happy to. Obviously, it was a challenge, as it was for everyone. One of the things that we're most proud of, and we've done in other natural disasters or problems that have befallen the town, is that we, try to use our communications role in forwarding the town's emergency management messages. And there was so much information that was so important during the beginning of the pandemic. We were forwarding it to our email list, which extended the reach of the town and the state's information, and through our social media, helping to reach a greater majority of the community. In addition to that, the library provided digital content such as ebooks, digital audio books, streaming music, and video, which are all available free with your library card through our library in the Westchester Library System. When everybody was stuck at home, it turned out to be a really invaluable service. I shifted almost all of our print material budget to digital content instead. And at this time, we are still up 70% in our digital usage over last year. So that turned out to be a really helpful thing for parents to still be able to have their children to read, to educate themselves, and to be entertained as well. We also started offering virtual programs. Our children's librarian, Miss Anna, I think it was very touching, and it was very valuable that there were a lot of very young children whose lives had been disrupted. And I think it was, we know because parents contacted it, it was very comforting to them to see their favorite children's librarian on the screens in their home with her bubble machine, giving her story hours. And it helped to be comforting to them as well. And we've created a lot of virtual programs for teens and adults as well. We've now pivoted to curbside pickup. We're also, which is still very popular, people love to dart into the foyer and just grab something that's been checked out to them already, that they don't have to enter the building. Been very, very popular. And we also provide browsing, children's room, public computer, and study appointments just as soon as the state guidelines allowed us to do that. So people can make appointments to come and do that, still maintaining social distancing, but able to use the services that they need in their lives.
Thank you. Yes, that was very much appreciated, what you did in terms of for the town, in terms of communications, and for the community, in terms of everything you were able to provide.
Thank you. We were happy to do it.
I'd like to make one comment that that when this eventually comes to a vote, I will support the 1.23% increase, which the library has requested, or the $5,400 increase. It is minimal, and I believe they certainly deserve it.
Well, we appreciate that. We did try to keep our requests to the minimum, for a very specific expense that we don't really have control over. Janet, I don't know if Nancy Eichner, I think she wanted to speak as well.
Sure, is there any way you can bring the screen down so I can?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Nancy, correct?
Yeah.
And Nancy, I'm asking you to unmute and to start your video if you'd like. There you are.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Nancy.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Cindy was most eloquent in describing our financial situation at the library. I am Nancy Eichner, the president of the Library Trustees. We wish to thank the town board for its continued and ongoing support. A couple of things Cindy did not mention. She was heroic this year in pursuing PPP funds for the library, which quite frankly saved our bacon. When we were turned down by the first financial institution, she courageously found another and plowed through. So I want to compliment Cindy and tell the town board that that was enormously helpful in making it through the year. As she said, the town's funding, generous as it is, does not even cover the salary and benefits for our staff. The library trustees, all volunteers, are forced to raise about $150,000 a year to make up the difference. Without the library fair, we would have been in very deep trouble had not the PPP funds come through. We have been as creative as humanly possible with fundraising, safe and socially distanced. It's been a challenge. Many of you participated in that historic Hamlet hunt, which was very successful and very well received. We have supported the town when you needed to delay our funding. We were certainly there and happy to do so. Peter challenged us last year as trustees to increase our donor outreach. We have certainly done that, resulting in 3 recent major donations. We continue to make personal outreach and arm twisting a priority. As you can imagine, many of our donors are community members who've been financially impacted by COVID. So that's been difficult. With the fate of the library fair in doubt, again, next year will be a trying one for us. We thank you, Peter, for the support that would at least cover the increase in our hourly staff's wage increase, over which we really have no control. Thank you. And I appreciate the support. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to try.
I think you'll have a big opportunity for fundraising next year if, and it's a big if CO19 comes to essentially a halt. There will be a feeling of relief and sheer pleasure of survival, which I think you can capitalize on, first of all, for the fair, and secondly, for a series of events. I've forgotten what we called it, Cindy, but we had those dinners, which were really successful. And I'd love to see those again.
Okay. Great idea.
Mm-hmm.
If I may just add one thing, and I had told Nancy I wasn't going to mention it, but I think that I should. I want to publicly thank the Brownstone Family Foundation through the intervention of local resident Diane Brownstone. She gave us a check for $30,000 about a week ago, and that is going to go in a long way to, I mean, we had budgeted more than that for the library fair, but it will be a great help in at least partially making up for not having the library fair. I mean, we still need to, raise way more above that, but we're very grateful and they were very generous. And
thank you. Does anybody else want to ask questions of Cindy or Nancy? In that case, I'd like to move on to the highway budget.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you
Thank you,
both.
Nancy.
Thank you. Peter,
And Nancy.
Okay.
Peter Rippinger?
Yep, I think he's calling in.
Okay.
And I did see a phone earlier, but oh, there it is. Okay. So Peter, I'm asking you to unmute. If you could hit *6.
You got me?
I got you. There you are. Mhm.
Hi, good evening. Good evening to the board. My name is Peter Rippinger. You all know me as the highway superintendent. Before me, I have preparation of the budget. Everybody have a copy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What we usually do with the highway budget is we go down line by line, and if you're on for that, that's what we can do now. I think you'll see the savings per line.
That's what I'd like you to do, Peter.
Okay, we got very aggressive this year, so don't expect too much, but here we go. Going down the line for what you have in front of you right now, we start off with, the first thing is your lead mechanics. Okay, that price has not changed. You can see that for 186, 639. Do we see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Longevity is your next one. Now, longevity is pretty much controlled by the years they're here. As you'll notice, the longevity went up. What did it go? Longevity went up $950, and that's pretty much contracting the time that they're here. The next line is office supplies, down $300. Okay, we went from $750 down to $450 for next year. So that's schools and training. That's also down 300 from 1,300 to 1,000. Office supply, office cleaning. That's a contract and it's pending at this moment. We don't assume to be any increase in it. It was 2,200. Hopefully, will stay the same. The next one is your CDL renewal, and that's by contract when the licenses are due for the guy all under the union contract. And that dropped down $200 this year. Okay. First aid supplies all stayed the same at $300. As we get down to the your next sheet, we've got your MEO wages and longevity. Your MEO wages, again, that's 602,640. Okay, that's what it was. Your MEO mechanic overtime rate is 16,000, staying the same. It was up this year, as you'll see there, for that 24,000. That was due to the storm. We're hoping that we'll get some of that money back if FEMA comes through. That was the overtime working the storms. And if we get it back from FEMA, we should drop back to our line. The seasonal employees, which is our college kids, we didn't use any this year. We're hoping to reinstate that next year and get the kids back to working at their normal line of 28,000. Gasoline went down this year. We had budgeted for 40. We're going to budget for 30 next year. Oily water recovery is also down. We budgeted for 8,000. We're going to budget down to 7,000 this year. Your next line is gravel. Now, gravel depends on the bid. It bids out every year. But it's looking now on what we're using. We bid it for 35,000, and the way we've been using it, the price that came in, we're going to drop it 5 down to 30,000. Your municipal lease, that was a big one. A lot of the leases were paid off. So we're down this year. You'll be 23,000 on your lease line, as you can see. I mean, you'd be 57,000 less because those leases were paid off.
Yeah, but also, Peter, surely because we've been borrowing directly rather than leasing.
Anymore, and that line's going. We have one truck left that's leased. Next year it'll be gone, and that line will disappear.
Yeah, would be good. It would be good as a just a check to sort of look at the total fleet budget together and just see how that's moving, the loans and the leases.
Okay.
Well,
That'll
the
have to
only
get-
reason we borrow directly is because it's a lot cheaper than leasing.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's just good to know like what the total cost of ownership has been.
Okay.
Our next line is the clothing allowance line. That also is coming down $300. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but from 10,002 down to 99, every bit is helping us here. The OSHA clothing went up 200 due to new mandates for vests. Tree work, we're flatlining at 40. I'm a little concerned. I think I've spoken to Peter about this. I've spoken to Leo. Where we are in the town of Lewisboro, and as every town, the ash trees are dying like crazy. That not being known, where we budget for the same as 40, and we've been actively taking down as many trees as we can with the crew that we have and with our outside contract with a bucket truck. So if we do go over that, we're going to have to readjust that or relook at it in the middle of the year, depending on the trees and the. Your next line is signposts. We went up 1,000 because the town speed limit signs are all going to change in another month. We're going to go from the 30-mile-an-hour zone to the 25-mile-an-hour zone. So that's over 100 signs, 125 signs that have to be changed. And what we're doing is some of them are new, the other ones are being refaced. As we take them off, we're going to send them out to be refaced. It's half the price. Hardware and maintenance has been at 6 and staying at 6. Road repair, as you see, we have $80,000 in the road repair line. We're not going to raise that. That's going to stay where it is. Again, we're putting in for the road surfacing and paving, the same as we did last year, $180,000, although it went to other areas right now. Next year, that should be back in there. One of our questions has been, and to the boards that you're aware of it, as you know, we get CHIPS from the state of New York. This year, we were to receive $212,000 in CHIPS money, and for those that don't know what CHIPS money, it's Consolidated Highway Improvement Funds, okay, which we use for blacktopping or drainage. This year, all of it, the 212, went to blacktop because that's all the money we really had for blacktop this year. So we were told by the state to use it quickly, get it in, and do, which the town did due diligence, and we got it in. Lo and behold, the governor decided to cut us. We sent 212, like we were supposed to. He cut $42,000 out of the chip line, dropping us down to 170. So he went 42,000 in a hole on that line. And as I've said to Peter and to the board, next year for the CHIPS money, we're not going to go with the 212. We'll go with the 170 because, quite frankly, a lot of the highway superintendents have been meeting and talking, and we're a little scared or concerned where it's going to go. I don't think we're going back where we were. If anything, it comes down a bit. So they're fighting to hold that line. Environmental mulch and debris stays the same at $2,500. Catch basins, $30,000 a year. We'll pretty much wipe that out this year and doing a lot of drainage work. When we can't do blacktop, we do a lot of drainage. And when you got to do blacktop, you redo the drainage. So they're very, very active this year in getting as much as that as possible done.
Hey, Peter, this is Tony. I have a question on that mulch and debris. Is that the, does that have to do with purchasing mulch?
No, basically what that has, we get rid of a lot of odds and ends and stuff, mulch or debris on the road, and that's always been in the budget to get rid of any extras that we can't get rid of. Now with the new gentleman that we have down there, if he stays with us, that line may disappear. With the gentleman down at the Dome. We're working on that to make that totally go away, but we put it in the budget not knowing if you guys were going to keep him on board.
So you answered my next question. That is the operation that we're seeing at the Salt Dome.
Well, it all adds into it, Tony. Sometimes it's stuff that's thrown along the road and we have to remove, that people dump logs and stuff like that, and we got to get it out, or any debris, machines and stuff that we have to get rid of. So it lumps. A lot of it has to do with just logs and stuff.
Peter, you had an estimate of how much we saved.
Right today, with that operation, and hopefully you're familiar with it, and if not, I certainly can share it with you. But Hickory Farms entered into an agreement with the town of Lewisboro, and to to our guys, right now, the town has saved approximately close to $40,000 this year. I will tell you where, okay, and how. They take all our logs, all our debris, they chip it, and yes, they bring some of their own, okay? They chip it here, they get rid of it, they sell it, we don't see it. We don't pay a dime. We used to spend close to $15,000 a year just getting rid of that when we had storms. Now, the other compound to this is we had over 35 yards of soil down there. When we clean the drains and we clean the side of the roads, all that comes back on the top area where we have in the dome, where it lays out, it dries, and we usually get rid of it. Builders take it. That's not happening anymore. So we had 3,000 cubic yards and getting bigger and bigger, closer to the cemetery. This gentleman, he has taking all that out. He makes topsoil out of it. Yes, he sells it, does what he does with it. But he is right now taking out 2,500. If you go down there, you can now, that part of the dome is lower than the cemetery, which is going to be very nice for the people that are visiting up there. It's all coming back down to where the level where it was 30 years ago. That being said, cost the town nothing. And right now I'm saying that's probably $40,000 worth of product. And if you're concerned about the guy, he's a licensed contractor. He worked in Pound Ridge, Pleasantville, and North Castle. Very, very astute, very hard. You know, his equipment is the best. He's all licensed and insured. I think we're doing very well with this, and as long as we can keep him, and he keeps a nice, neat place, the town will continue to have the savings that we won't have to put in our budget. Because usually every 2 years, I got to ask you for 15, 20 grand to clear up from storms. And the way we're having storms now, you know, this should just go on. So hopefully the marriage will stay there, and we can keep on going with this.
Thank you for that detail, Peter.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Going on to our next one, we had vehicle repairs. Everybody find that one?
Yes.
Just real quick, the catch basins and pipe, I know I interrupted you before when you were on it, so can you just wrap that stays the same?
Yeah, we're not going to change that. We'll empty out pretty much that whole thing this year, doing more drainage before winter hits. And that stays pretty consistent as long as we're doing, you know, if we're not blacktopping, we're doing a lot of drainage.
Right.
And right now the infrastructure's got its problems, so we're trying to keep up with what we can with our crew.
Okay.
Vehicle equipment and repairs, down 10,000. We cut the budget 10 grand on that. We went down from 130 to 120. Electricity, we're leaving flat line. Not touching it. By all that we see what we're using over the months and stuff, we're going to leave it alone. And one of the big reasons is not asking for an increase, as we've seen, electricity is going up because of COVID. We have, during the COVID, the town was nice enough, the crew was cut in half. Never once did the highway department not work throughout this whole thing. But you had 4 guys on one week, 5 guys on the next week. So in essence with this, and not being able to use the lunchroom and not being able to use the facilities much, lighting and utilities are down. So we'll see where we come the wintertime. Heating fuel went down. Standard telephone is $400. It will stay $400. That's just almost like a stipend. Snow overtime, we're going to flatline at 140. You didn't have a bad year last year, but don't let that fool you. Leave it alone, what we've always budgeted. If you have another, like you say, slow year, then we'll readjust it. But it's the ice storms that are kicking us now, not the snow. Outside contractors, we dropped down $5,000. Okay, we've been able to, we've also had another individual that's joined in the town, helps us with our snow plowing, and is also a town employee, so that helps us. The salt contract, of course, is pending, but we cut it $30,000. As you know, last year we didn't use a lot of salt. Well, by OGS, you are guaranteed to take X amount, a percentage of X amount. 45% of what you said you were going to take. Unfortunately, we didn't. And unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of storage room. So we worked it out with the salt company at no charge. We had to pay for it. So we bought $35,000 worth of salt, which is stored. So we don't need it this year. So we can cut that down. And that's why the salt line is low, which is a good savings that we didn't even see that coming. Magnesium chloride, which is very little that we use, and that goes on the trucks to help the salt reach its temperature limit on a lot of the lake roads. And that stays at 2,000. You see meal tickets. That's when the guys stay over or when they work 12 hours or 18 hours by union contract, they get a $14 meal ticket. Pretty much it stayed in line like that. We may not use it all this year to see how winter comes coming down the road with the rest of it. At this point, the storm trailer is still 5,000. We rent that. Something we want to talk about sooner or later. Plow maintenance went up 3,000. That's always seemed to be a place with the blades and our outside contractors. Every other year we buy them a blade. We have 7 contractors that work for us. 2 left this year. We have to replace 2 more. But on the overall budget, as you can see it there, there's no increase besides contractual increases. And the union contract is coming up, I think, in March.
No.
Again, we don't.
Jan 1.
Okay, January. I don't know if Peter, I don't think you've met with him yet. I don't know if you spoke to any of the delegates, but from what I'm hearing, I'm not expecting much at all, if I'm not. Everybody's happy they're working, but we'll see when we get to that line. As I said, the crew is very small, and they were very appreciative. The town took very good care of them during this COVID. Okay, so we all became a family very quick. And as you know, in the highway department, everybody comes in, gets their temperature. They get tested before they use the punch card. Okay, so we are on it. Are there any outstanding questions that you need to ask at this point? The other ones that, your what you would call your disability, all that, all that part of the payroll, that would be answered by Leo, but I don't see anything going on there. Dental and all the, basically they're
Thank you, Peter.
healthcare. But is there anything outstanding? Please let me know. But I think it looks good because we're not asking for anything. We cut it down the best we could with that.
Now, do you want to go straight on into the Metrocom radio?
I'm not that familiar with that. I see it on there. I know that Joe Posados has been involved in what I understand. If this is what we're talking about.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Vista Firehouse is going to be updating the cell tower. And it's a real good time for us to get, from what I understand, it's called a repeater or such, or I think to get up on that tower for a limited cost. And what that would do would take the town radios where we lose communication in Vista on the other side, down in Spring, down in New Canaan, any of those areas, we lose contact. It's very intermittent. And even when you get over to certain parts of Elmwood Road, this would improve it so that we would have communication with all our trucks at pretty much any given time. That's what I understand about it, Peter.
Yeah, that's going on the Vista Tower, correct? The Vista Fire Department
Yes.
Tower? Yeah.
Well, the Vista, not on the Vista, on the tower,
the cell
which
tower.
is next to
Right.
Yeah, I
the
said
Vista
so.
Fire Department.
Firehouse
cell tower.
property line. And they're going to be working on it, so it behooves us now because we can enter in while they're doing it and get it all organized and on at the same time.
We're piggybacking on the
Yeah.
Vista Fire Department.
From what I understand, yes, you have to meet with Metro, but exactly that. And at the cost of radios and everything, I think it'd be a good idea right now with the communications to do what we can with our radios.
All right. Thank you, Peter, on the budget. And I'd like the board to vote on Joe Posadas' proposal from about Metrocom to move the radios at the Vista Firehouse to the top of the cell tower, and to take advantage of the cost sharing with the Vista Fire Department, who are ready to do the work at the same time. Do I have a second?
I second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Peter.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Joel?
Okay,
And ladies,
What?
and ladies, Peter thanked the gentleman, but I doubt
Correct
he
that.
meant to just
Sorry.
thank the 4
It
gentlemen.
probably cut off.
Okay, So now Joel.
Hello, folks.
Hey, Joel.
Am I unmuted properly, Janet?
You are Joel.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Okay. I guess the main goal of the maintenance budget this year was to try and not increase much. So what we've got is it's about 11,000 less than last year, and it's about 500 less than 2019. What we were able to drop a little bit was electric and oil, actually. So we're a little more efficient than we were. We've gotten we're pretty far along with our LED conversion. We've got some new HVAC stuff going, so we've become more efficient. And we're also not cooling Golden Bridge Community House right now. And that saves us some money.
Are you working the LED conversion that's throughout all facilities?
Yeah, we've been doing that for about 5 years, and
Right.
now we're running out of stuff to do it to.
Okay, that's good.
So we're getting there. I mean, it adds up with, it's our 15th building we're doing it to, so it does make a difference.
Great.
There's not a lot else, unless I go through each line, but they're basically the same.
Mhm.
Except for salaries, we're not sure what we're doing with salaries next year at this point. Whether they
Well,
increase or
I've
not.
asked every department head to assume a zero increase versus
Right, and
this
that's-
year, except for steps and longevity and contractual things such as those.
Right, okay.
Um,
And that's shown in this budget. There's a zero increase, except for, I think longevity doesn't increase either with us this year.
I think everybody knows why I'm doing that. If you've read any of my memos about my concern in raising taxes in a year when a lot of people have real problems making ends meet.
Yeah.
Any questions for Joel going through this?
Projects next year, it's not a lot, but we'll be not renovating. We'll be giving Cyrus Russell a facelift. And another barn at Onatru will be getting a lot of work. And the water system at Onatru is supposed to be approved this winter, which means we'll be working on it through next year to get all that done. Besides routine maintenance, that's more than routine maintenance on those buildings.
And those will be, they're not in this budget, or they are in this?
Yes, it's part of this budget.
They're in this budget.
They're in the operating budget. There's no contractors involved, it's just materials.
Okay.
All that stuff.
So no other
Okay,
major things anticipated in terms of changing the way you're working, or learnings from the way you're working these days that change anything?
So hopefully we can get a little more done next year when we can work together a little better. It's tougher when you can't pile on the same truck or help each other on a ladder or a scaffold. All that's different now. So it's like one man at a time. It slows you down.
All right. Okay, good.
And that's it. Except there's the IT budget, which also doesn't change. One number goes up and one goes down. We'll be spending a little more on licensing fees as we get more involved with Office 365 and the antivirus that goes with that. So we pay, instead of buying the software up front with the new PCs, we pay a yearly amount to keep it current. So that shifts from equipment to licensing, pretty much. So equipment goes down a little, licensing goes up a little bit next year. And videotaping supplies stays the same at 400. I'm anticipating we'll be videotaping again someday instead of Zoom, but we don't know. And
Joel, are there any costs on storing Zoom?
no, right now we store it in-house. We have to download
Okay.
the website, but we put it up on YouTube and they haven't bothered us about storage amounts yet. So, but we store them in-house. We keep them.
It's
Oh,
also,
okay.
it's also backed up to Zoom itself, right? So they're,
Yes, they only let me do about 4 or 5 meetings worth of space.
okay.
And I have to download them. I have to get them off. But they're pretty good. They don't just delete them without warning you, so they're pretty
Right.
safe. But we download them and we post them on YouTube and we keep a copy.
Mhm.
All right. Are there any other questions for Joel? Because I think he's finished his budget, right?
Yes.
Thanks for cutting your budget, Joel.
It's not
Thank
much,
you.
it's a little.
Every little bit counts.
Our budget isn't much, so.
Right.
Okay.
Dan, next item. Could you propose a motion authorizing me to sign a letter of support for Sustainable Westchester's opt-out community solar program?
Right. So this is just an expression of support. There's no other obligations or anything involved with it, but it's Sustainable Westchester trying to move the needle on the low income side of things and looking to submit a grant proposal, and we're just cheerleading. So I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the supervisor to send a letter of support in support of Sustainable Westchester's application for the community solar grant program.
Second.
Discussion?
And this
All in
is the
favor?
letter that's going to the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, right?
Yes.
Just
Correct.
so everyone's aware. Okay.
All in favor?
Jane seconded. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to move on to unfinished business. We have discussed a public processing of permit applications and unpaid fines, so that at the moment, if you have an unpaid fine or an unpaid tax, or you cannot get a new building permit. We want to modify that a little so that if somebody in that situation wants a new, has got something dangerous on their property, they can still get a permit for that specific, to remedy that particular danger. They can also get a permit to remedy a specific problem. Basically, it's, for instance, a wetlands problem. You can still get a permit to do that. But what you will remain unable to do is to get a permit for normal improvements until you've paid up on all fines, etc. We had asked Anthony to propose or to write out the necessary changes to the code in order to do that. And Anthony, you had to attack 5 separate provisions of the code in order to do this?
Yeah, so how it works is the overall goal here was to prevent a situation where someone has either an outstanding violation on the property and or an unpaid fine relative to the property that's the subject of the application. That application could be for an approval through the planning board, wetlands, building department, zoning board, et cetera. So because it affects so many different areas of the code, we had to put the amendment in 5 different sections. But basically what it says is you can't get an approval or a permit until you either address the violation and or pay the fine. But if the application is specific to the very violation that you have, then of course you can proceed with that. Or if it's some kind of urgent, hazardous condition, you can proceed with that.
I'd like to make a motion to set up a public hearing on this probably for a month's time from now. In other words, 2 meetings away, because we need to give the planning board and the town prosecutor and the building department time to comment on it. And I think maybe 6 weeks, let's be safe. Let's go for a town board meeting 6 weeks from now.
That'll be November 9th, Peter.
All right, I'd like to propose that we set a public hearing for November 9th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We have had discussions about selling a property at the corner of Lakeshore and Truesdale Lake Drives. The question has mainly been, what should we limit? Do we need to limit what can be done with the parcel? And I think we're united in saying yes. And I am going to suggest that we limit it to no buildings shall be constructed on the parcel. And that will be inserted in the deed before the transfer of the deed. We would also warn all people who wish to buy it of that provision. That would allow somebody to put down a pathway, probably a wooden pathway, across the property, because at the moment it's almost impossible to cross the property because of the wetlands. So you need something to get across the property without walking on other people's property. Do I have agreement that we should, in fact, at the sale of the property, we should insert in the deed that there will be no building constructed on the parcel? Dan, this was done for you.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that, since everybody says it can't be done anyway, so nobody's losing anything on it. And as I said, just found that there were a couple of cases where people were sure nothing could ever be done, and then all of a sudden something got squeezed in a very inappropriate place.
Well, my wife would agree with you, but she doesn't have a vote.
And then hopefully I have her proxy then. But anyway, this piece here is really strategic. All that water's coming down from up the hill there, and it's the last stop before the lake, in a sense, for it to be treated and absorbed. So it's a very important piece, and I see no harm in putting that in it.
Neither do I. Can I have, is everybody in favor of that?
Yes.
Yes, I'm in favor.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to propose a resolution approving the 3 requests for proposals for treating wastewater on Lakes Truesdale, Kitchewan, and Walkabuck. With your agreement, those will be sent out tomorrow, I think. Right, Janet?
I'll send them to the newspaper tomorrow, yes.
Yeah.
They'll be in Friday.
Okay, but so I'd like a second
Second.
on approving those. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I heard you, Jen.
I know. Connection.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jen.
That's okay.
I'd like to move on to the next public comment period, which is limited to people who wish to speak on the budgets, which were discussed this evening. It was very hard for people to discuss them until they'd been presented. Does anybody wish to speak?
Yes, Peter, I do have two hands up.
Okay.
Right now, let me just get my timer ready.
Peter, you may also wish to just remind the public in general that the overall budget will be subject to a public hearing also.
Yes.
So this is not your only.
Sorry. The overall budget, yes, Anthony is correct. This is just specific comments on the library, highway, and maintenance and shared services budgets.
Right, none of which is accepted and nailed down yet, as it all goes into the preliminary budget ultimately.
Yes.
Okay, the first hand up is an iPhone, and that's all it says. So I'm asking the iPhone to unmute.
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
And I'm trying to get the video going too.
Okay.
My name is Roy Lerner. Oh, there I am. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Well, I'm pointing out the need for a water truck. I live on Silver Spring Road, which is partly a dirt road. And as you know, we have a lot of dirt roads in town. And I'm speaking to Peter Parsons about this. And during the drought periods, the dust is just unbelievable, unlivable, and just choking. And it's a health issue as well as quality of life issue. This Silver Spring and East Street go around Brown's Reservoir, and it's a favorite place for people to walk their dogs, bicycle, jog, whatever. But when trucks, especially trucks, go by, and it's a dry period, I mean, it's impossible. And in our house, also when the dust billows up, it's like those videos you see of Iraq during the war. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So we had a water truck, and in fact, I've been in residence since 1981, and we used to have a water truck that not only sprayed water, but sprayed, I think it was either calcium chloride or potassium chloride. And I know that the cost of that is prohibitive at this point, and there's other unintended consequences that happen with that, because what happens during the rainy period with the calcium or potassium chloride in there, it absorbs water, it's hygroscopic, and you get a muddy situation. So now Peter Rippinger has done wonders changing the medium that they use on the road, and we no longer have mud, but the dust is just unbelievable. So I just want to point out, and Peter knows this, we really do need a water truck to, not only for Silver Spring Road, but I think there was, I think it was Church Tavern, or one of the roads he was telling me about, was going to be paved, and it's not going to be paved now. And the residents living near close to the road are being choked out. So that's pretty much my comment. I've looked on eBay to see what something like this would cost, and it is a huge range in price. A brand new water truck's like $150,000, but you can find a used one from the 1990s from a place that doesn't have rust, like Florida, for like $15,000. So
Your time is up now. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And just in case the people on Church Tavern think that something has happened overnight, it's in fact Old Church, not Church Tavern.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just didn't want people to think that we'd lost track.
Well, you'll be losing us under a billow of dust if we don't do something about this. And I know the budget's tough, but
Okay. Thank you so much.
yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Roy.
Brian. Okay, now I'm asking Simone Petromelis to unmute and also to.
Yes, hi.
There you go, Simone.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to know why Sustainable Westchester was set up where we have to opt out of it if we don't want it instead of opting in. Why was the onus put on us? That is a question that has been bothering me. Also, to the town supervisor, I am still shocked and shaking from how you spoke to Mr. Cronin. Mr. Welsh actually cut him in while he was making a comment, not a debate, and he was nice enough to communicate with him. And then you cut him off, ended his commenting time in the most rude manner. At the police reform meeting, you began the video with the curse that came out of your mouth. We all heard it. And then you warned the town right after that we'd be asked to leave if we did the same. In the taped version, that's missing. Should we have asked you to leave? You need to speak to our town residents with respect, and you owe Mr. Cronin an apology. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
Simone.
else?
Yes, Peter. Andrea Rendo, I'm asking you to unmute and to show your video if you desire. There you are.
Good evening, everyone. Andrea Rendo, South Salem. It's more of an inquiry or maybe something you guys want to look into. I noticed that in the library budget, next to custodial and maintenance, that it was down about $1,000. And I just thought that with COVID and all the increased methods of cleaning that we're supposed to be using, that number should be higher. So just a, an inquiry, because I know, what goes behind all the cleaning that they have to do on a daily basis. So to see it, go down after COVID was kind of curious. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. And that appears to be it. Peter.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, in that case, if I can find the agenda, which I've hidden somewhere here. I'd like to make a motion to approve claims. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to poll the board. Dan?
I guess I should point out that the new Westchester Power contract, the opt-out letters, the notification letters are going to be mailed out this coming Friday. So they should be arriving in mailboxes next week. It was just a question as to why it was an opt-out program. That's the way, we moved the community into renewable energy at a scale that will make any kind of a difference, because we've had an opt-in program essentially for the past 20, 30 years since energy was deregulated in New York State. And it's kind of a hybrid program that the state has approved where the community is involved in changing the default. You can still do anything you want. You can opt out. If you want to be in NYSEG's standard power, you can do that. You can change to another supplier. You will get a notification letter next week. We'll lay out all this in that letter and what the new contract rates are and the relationship to all the other program opportunities, including the one that we were talking about with Tim, which is the community solar program, which is a guaranteed savings on your bill. I urge everybody, unless you have solar panels on your house already, in which case you're not eligible, but if you don't, it's a great opportunity. And between the two, you're going to be doing pretty well. So that's what I have for now.
Jane.
So for my polling of the board, I just wanted to encourage people to go out and take a last opportunity to enjoy our parks and preserves. My family was out enjoying Oldfield and the meditation garden, and look out up at Mountain Lakes. The leaves are starting to change. So I think if we get out there in the next 10, 14 days, we'll be able to see that changing of the leaves. So I want to encourage everybody to take advantage of that asset that Lewisboro has to offer at this time of year. I also, once again, want to encourage people to go ahead and join SURGE, the Westchester chapter, which stands for Stand Up for Racial Justice. If that's something people are interested in, they're getting a surge of interest and starting some subcommittees. So please join us there if you're interested in that work. And then I am sure that Jen will cover this, but I want to go ahead and promote the Parks and Rec Trunk or Treat, which they're going to hold on Halloween this year at the town park. And the Crimmins family signs up to get a trunk spot. So we'll be there with our trunk full of candy, dressed up, and we're going to do it up this year in our family costume. And I hope to see a lot of you there. Something to look forward to. So thank you to Dana and Reed and Parks and Rec for another something to look forward to. That's it.
Jen?
So as Jane mentioned, Trunk or Treat is one of the biggest things upcoming from Parks and Rec that our families can really look forward to take advantage of Halloween, especially for people who aren't really sure what door-to-door looks like in a COVID world. So Trunk or Treat will be on Saturday the 31st. Parks and Rec is definitely looking for businesses or people who are looking to provide a trunk. And anyone who wants to participate in that program can reach out certainly to Parks and Rec. Candy distributors will need to wear face coverings and gloves, and the trunks have to be decorated in a manner that embraces fall or the themes of Halloween, obviously. And for families that are interested in participating, they are doing sign-up slots, so it won't be too crowded up there. Starting tomorrow, the Howlers basketball program will begin registration for Coach Heaton's outdoor basketball conditioning class. Sounds like a lot of fun. Parks and Rec is going to be closed on Thursday because there will be an outdoor flu clinic offered at the town park. It's through prior registration. I think they have about 70 appointments made already. It's been a really popular program. And they are also looking to do another drive-in movie, possibly Saturday, October 17th at Onatru. So keep an eye out on their page for more information. And they're trying to rework the New Neighbor Network as well. So Dana, Reed, Laura, Michael, all very busy trying to keep us engaged through the fall.
Tony?
Excellent. Yeah, just one update regarding the Oak Ridge Water District. On Thursday evening, we have a Zoom meeting. It will be posted on the website. Notice went out by the property manager to the residents, basically to give folks an update on what's going on with the water plant and next steps with some of the things that are being done. So if anyone that's on here is a resident, please join us for that meeting Thursday evening, 6:30.
Okay, that leaves me. First of all, there was some questions at the beginning of this, or somebody made a statement at the beginning of this about the, quite honestly, atrocious performance of Optimum during the last storm, and the fact that Verizon, well, I don't know if somebody actually said this, Verizon was clearly very unprepared because at their cell towers, because they lost power at the cell towers. There is an organization called United Westchester, comprised mainly of assembly members, state assembly, and supervisors and mayors. And we plan to, we divided up into committees in order to make clear our dissatisfaction on paper with Optimum and certainly with Verizon. also hugely in other communities, Con Ed. At the moment, unless people come to me, I don't see any particular reason, and neither do any of the other supervisors in NICEAG's area, see any reason to complain about what NICEAG's performance during the storm. They seem to perform exceptionally well. So I specifically, as the supervisor of Lewisboro, have been appointed to the committee to write to NICEAG, the committee to write to Optimum, and the committee to write to Verizon. All of this will go to the Public Service Commission in Albany. Next thing, we held a police revision public comment session last week. It gained considerable interest and a very significant number of people, both speaking and watching. And I found that very gratifying because it showed that people are prepared to work on this. The next meeting will be at the end of the month, and we'll begin work on our proposal to revise and review the current police charter. Finally, I should have brought this up earlier, but I didn't. There is I've got a letter here saying that we need to put a three-way, I think it's a three-way stop sign is what he is asking for on Mead Street, where it joins with Long Pond. And I think, and I'm not sure, I don't know that, I don't drive that area that frequently. But I can well imagine that there is a problem as people accelerate through Long Pond and Rampart. And I'd like the town board to think about it. And also, maybe the best way to think about it is to drive Mead Street during a rush hour and see what it is like. Because I'm well aware it is a shortcut. Thank you very much. The next town board meeting will be at 7:30 p.m. I managed to lose it, Janet.
It's okay. It's Tuesday, October 13th.
On Tuesday, it's at 7:30 p.m., Tuesday, October 13th. And it will be on Zoom as tonight's was.
Can I make just speak to you? You mentioned the police reform meeting.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to make an observation that there's some folks who hear that title and they think like, oh, there's a problem, and we're saying there's a problem.
Oh, yes.
To be reformed. And there's really two pieces to this, I think. One is just, obviously the mandate came down from the state, and everybody has to go through this exercise to review public input and update your procedures, make sure you don't have any, critical holes. And that's just something we have to do. But there was a lot of concern. Many people spoke up and out of fear that we were cutting the police, because obviously, cutting the police budgets and obviously that's a big theme in other locales. I don't think anybody thinks that's particularly applicable in that sense here, because we only have a small budget. And I would just urge everybody to think of this actually as an opportunity rather than like, oh boy, they're making us do this. Look at all the attention it's bringing to the police, and and all the good stuff that they do. And think of it also in terms of like even the top-notch companies that you see out there, they go through continuous improvement processes, right? So they review their policies and their ways of working, try to be more efficient and whatnot. And so we have a top-notch police department. That doesn't mean they don't want to continue to strive to improve. They're going to do that. And you know, this is a great opportunity, and if there are resources needed, I'm sure we're all going to be very, you know, favorably inclined to really give that a good look. And such, you know, I think it's a positive thing, and I would urge people to think of it in those terms.
Thank you, Dan. That's a very valid point, that a lot of people seem to feel that that meeting was about cutting the police budget. I think, in fact, that meeting is likely to give Dave Alfano, our chief, the kind of help he needs to pitch for a larger budget. And I think that may well be where we're going. But thank you very much. I'd now like to make a motion to adjourn, to go into executive session to discuss appointments. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?